Okay, I've got another near-death travel story for you today. I told you I've got a lot. This one takes place at the bottom of a pit. There's no way up. My husband and I are stuck and have to be rescued by a group of strangers. And there are so many lessons that I took from this experience that I want to share with you today. 3 in particular that are going to make a massive difference in how you run your business. Let's get into it.
You're listening to the Bold Women in Business podcast, the show for women who are building something that actually matters and who are ready to stop hiding behind the polished and perfect and start showing up as their bold, magnetic, human AF selves. I'm Rachel Honeyman, your guide to finding your true magic and putting it front and center in your brand. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Quick pause. I want to tell you about a tool I use in my business every single day that I could not live without, NeedleCal. It's a calendar booking tool that lets anyone who wants to book a call with me, whether that's a potential client, an existing client, or anyone in between, to just click a link, pick a time, and boom, we're done. None of that back and forth email nonsense we all hate. I switched to NeedleCal from Calendly because, frankly, the pricing was getting ridiculous. And NeedleCal is not even in the same ballpark as any of their competitors. But they're not cutting corners. They offer the same features as everyone else, but they intentionally keep their prices low because they believe in making their products accessible to small business owners like you and me. And as someone who talks a lot about building a sustainable business, that mission means a lot to me. With NeedleCal, you can customize everything. You can brand your calendars, the settings are super flexible, and you can have as many calendars as you like. And I should know because I've got about 1 million of them. If you are paying through the nose for Calendly or another calendar booking tool, seriously go check out NeedleCal. The link is in the show notes and you can thank me later. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
Welcome back to the Bold Women in Business podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Honeyman, and I'm so grateful you're here. So let me set the stage for you. A few years ago, Svi and I did this whole, Grand Canyon, Arizona, Utah hiking trip where we were just doing tons of national parks and hiking every day. And it was beautiful. It was the winter, actually. So it was just quiet. There's no one around. It was amazing. And the last part of our trip was in Arches National Park. We did a bunch of hikes in Arches. The hiking was beautiful. We had such a great experience. The last day of our trip, so we were actually flying home from Salt Lake City the next morning. We had to get from Arches National Park to Salt Lake City, which was at least a couple hours. I don't remember exactly how far it is, but it's at least a couple hours away. And we had to get there by the evening so that we could fly home early the next morning. So we figured we're going to squeeze in one last short hike. And I had seen this trail on my All Trails app that kind of caught my eye. It was called the Fiery Furnace Trail. And it was listed as being just about 2 miles round trip. So I figured this is going to be easy. We're big hikers, and we had done hikes on this particular trip that were like 10 plus miles. So a couple miles felt like easy peasy, going to be quick in and out, no big deal. But for some reason that I understand now, but at the time I didn't quite understand, we needed permits for this trail. So I had applied for the permits and we won the lottery. We got the permits. And I had been applying for permits for other trails on this trip that we did not get. So I didn't have any real expectations, but we got the permits. So great. It's all done by a lottery and, they only let a certain number of people in per day. So we got the permits and the dates aligned. I said, okay, great. This is going to be our last activity of the trip. So we show up and we go to the ranger station, and I thought that they were being overly dramatic, honestly, because they were like, you have to meet with the ranger. You have to watch this whole safety briefing. Before we could even get on the trail, we had to go through this whole exercise of making sure we're ready to embark on this trail. And they just kept harping over and over how much we needed to have the right supplies and we needed to stay on the trail, except that they were very clear that the trail is not really a trail. You can kind of meander and look around and explore, and that's part of the experience. But the real reason that they were being so rigorous with this is that there's just a lot of protected plant life in this particular area. And so they just want to make sure that people aren't like stomping all over protected wildlife and plant life. But I just kept saying, like, I don't know why we need so much water and food and all this stuff. It's 2 miles. Like, how long could this whole thing take? We're probably going to be in and out of there in 45 minutes, and it's going to be no big deal. So we stupidly did not bring a lot of supplies with us because I had this idea in my head that this is going to be no big deal and we're just going to get out of it. So we pull into the trailhead and we're the only car in the parking lot. It's early. Like I said, it's winter. So the park was pretty empty to begin with. So we start on the trail and it seems like no big deal. The trail is like pretty easy to follow and there are signs. And, you know, I kind of didn't really understand what they meant about exploring and all of that because there's just a pretty simple, easy path to follow. And we're going and it's really cool. You really do feel like you're like in this kind of underground covered oasis in a way. And there's just really cool plant life everywhere. And Arches is like all about the arches. It's called that for a reason. So there's just like cool rock formations everywhere. And it was really fun. We're like rock scrambling and it's just really fun. And then we got hit with this like eye-opening just bam in our faces why we have to be so careful on this trail. So all of a sudden, the trail becomes a lot harder to follow. And I'm looking at my All Trails map and I see this little marker of where we are. And it says that right where we are is called the Pit of Possible Return. And I'm like, well, that's ominous. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I really could not tell on the map, like which direction we were supposed to go. So I did exactly the thing that they told us not to do, which was I looked at the ground and I saw where the footprints are going. And they told us over and over and over in the safety briefing, like, do not do that. Don't follow footprints. Make sure that you're staying on the path because people are exploring. So they might go in all sorts of directions and you could really wind up lost if you are following the footprints. But again, I was like so cocky and just was like, what is the big deal? So I see that there are footprints that kind of like drop off the rock and go down into this area that was like below the area where we were. Part of how this whole section is that there's like different levels of rocks and you're just like you're climbing up on rocks and you're climbing down to rocks below. And it's a lot of rock scrambling. And so it wasn't so weird to, you know, go down into a different level, but it was a steeper drop than I expected. And so we go down, we both like, you know, climb down, shimmy ourselves down into this area. And we're walking around and we're trying to find our way to the path. And within about 5 minutes, it becomes really clear that this is not the path. This is not the path at all. There's no path here. And so we go back to where we came down and realize, oh, like we cannot get back up. It's too steep. If we had had a third person with us, it would have been no big deal because, you know, you have one person kind of helping the other person up and then you have someone at the top pulling you up. But we're just 2 people and there's no way. There's absolutely no way we can get back up to where we had dropped down from. It was probably about 15 feet up, maybe less than that. But even if it was less than that, it was really, really hard. And we could not possibly get up. It was impossible. And the rocks were really smooth. So you couldn't even like climb on the rocks. It just was impossible. So I was like, no big deal. We're going to find a different path. You know, we go back out and we're looking at all the different possible ways to climb back up or go down because we're kind of in this middle area. We could actually look down and see an area that we had explored already. And we could look up and see that there's a path up there as well. It was impossible. There's no way in hell that we are getting up or down. It was just too steep and slippery and we're just two people and we can't do it. Now, mind you, we had not passed a single soul on the trail at this point. Like I said, we were the first one there. And as far as we knew, like no one else was going to come that day because there were like so few people in the park and there are a million other trails. And this is not the most frequented trail. It was very reasonable for us to assume like no one else is coming on this trail. And we had not passed anyone and we were not hearing anyone and we didn't see anyone. And so at this point, it didn't take very long. Spee starts freaking out. He's like going through this whole panic of like, we're going to die here. And we have very little water with us and we have no food with us. I think maybe we had like one protein bar or something. And we had no supplies and like, we're going to die here. In retrospect, like obviously the ranger would have come to look for us because they knew that we were there. But in the moment, it felt very, very desperate and scary. And I looked at the situation and I said, like, one of us needs to stay calm. And I'm not usually the one who stays calm. I'm like super anxious and prone to like panicking in these situations. But I was like, I have to stay calm. So I did. I really stayed calm and I just kept saying like, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to find our way. And Spee's like desperately looking for a way out and tries to climb and he winds up falling and like skinning his knee. And we had bought new jackets and winter gear and layers and all of that for this trip. And he actually tore his brand new jacket. So he was really bummed about that. But he was like a little scraped up and banged up and just it added to the panic. But I really did my best to stay calm. So I want to pause here before I continue with the story, because this is really the first lesson that I took away from this experience. Did I absorb it fully? Probably not. I still am prone to panic, but this is a situation that so many of us, probably the vast majority of us entrepreneurs, find ourselves in this state of panic at different points in our business where we just feel stuck. We just see like there's no way out. There's no way out of this situation. I don't see a path. Like things are just not working and I just don't see a path. And I don't know how I'm going to get from where I am now to where I need to go. It leads to this state of panic that actually winds up keeping us even more stuck because it's this vicious cycle. When we're in a state of panic and desperation, we have no chance of seeing the path out. It's just not possible. Nothing feels possible. So you wind up digging your heels in and you do the same things that you've been doing and you just try harder and harder and harder to make it work, or you abandon it completely and you try to go and do something else and you don't have any strategy. You're just kind of keeping yourself stuck in this state of having no strategy to get out or having no path to change what's going on. And what I did in that situation is really what needs to be brought into our businesses more and more, is that when we see that state of desperation and panic setting in, and we see it in ourselves, we need to be able to step outside of the situation and say, like, I need to calm down, because if I don't, I'm not going to see the options in front of me. I'm not going to see what is available to me. Spee was so panicked that he could not possibly see any solution. He was like planning our funerals already. Like he was like, we're done, we're cooked, it's done. Because I was able to kind of step outside the situation, even though internally I felt panic too. I felt the same level of panic, but I was able to step outside the situation and say, like, I got to stay calm. And because I was able to stay calm, I was able to pay attention to what came next. Something that Spee did not notice at all because he was just in his head. But I heard voices, not in my head. Don't worry. I wasn't going crazy. We weren't down there for that long yet. But I started hearing voices. I started hearing that there were people near us and I could look for help. Okay, so that brings us to the next part of the story. I started hearing these voices from up above. And I immediately just like ran over and I start yelling for help, 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 help. And it was this group of women that were hiking together, and they stopped and they talked to us and they tried to help us. And I was like, is there any way you could pull us up? And the section where they were, there was just no way. It was not possible. Like if they had had a rope or something, they probably could have, but they didn't have that. And it was not possible at all for them to actually help us get up at that section. It wasn't the section that we came down. It was a different section. But they were so kind and like stayed and talked to us, and they took our information. We had no cell service. I forgot to mention that. We had no cell service. So we couldn't even like call for help. No one had cell service. But they took our information. They took the information about our car, and they said, we will keep looking. As we keep going, we'll just like keep looking to see if we can see you and if there's any way to help you. And if we get back to the parking lot at the end of the hike and your car is still there, like we'll go tell the ranger and we'll tell them to come rescue you. So already like my internal panic was coming down, because I said like, okay, at least there are people who know we are here, right? Until this point, like, yes, the ranger knew that we were there because we had to sign in, we got permits, all of that. Again, they probably would have come to save us at the end of the day, but it was a long day. We got there early in the morning. It was probably 7 or 8 a.m. and they probably wouldn't have come looking for us until 7 or 8 p.m. And at that point, like it would have been a long time to be in this situation, especially without water or food, and who knows what would have happened. So I'm already feeling like a little calmer because there's someone who knows that we're there and they will go send for help if need be. Speed's still full on panic mode because, again, when you're stuck in that panic, it's really hard to see the options and the possibility and what is in front of you. But I had stayed calm. And so I really was able to see that. I was able to, first of all, hear their voices. I heard that someone was there, and I saw that there's a possibility here. Like there's an option. We will be helped. But then right after we had this whole exchange with these women and they went on their way because there was no possible way for them to help us right at that part of the trail, I hear more voices, but these ones are coming from down below, from that section that we had already explored. So I go over and I call to this man and woman who are down below, and I tell them the same thing. You know, we're stuck. We can't get out. Can you help us? And their response was so dramatically different from the women that we had just been talking to, who were like so desperate to help us. They just wanted to help us. This couple just took one look at us and they were like, nope, can't help you. Good luck. And they kept going. They didn't even try. There was like no attempt at all to try to help us. I don't know that they would have been able to help us, but that's besides the point. They were so not interested in helping us. And I was astounded. Like I have never experienced that before. It was just mind-boggling that they had no interest in helping us. And I was trying to like put myself in their situation. Like, of course I would have tried to help someone who's stuck. I would have done whatever I could to try to help them. I don't know if I would have been able to, but I would have tried. So then I say to Svi, let's go back to the section where we actually came down. Like, let's just see if there's any way that we can get back up. So we go back over there and we're trying for a while. And all of a sudden I hear this voice say, "Are you the stuck couple?" And I was like, oh my God, like, who is that? And I, said, yes, we're the stuck ones. And sure enough, what we found out is that those women who had stopped and tried to help us told every single person that they passed on the trail, there's a couple that's stuck, like keep an eye out for them. So this was a different couple that just, they were keeping an eye out, and they saw us down below and they said, like, are you the ones who are stuck? So there was just kind of this like chain reaction of people trying to help us. Total strangers. They don't know us at all, but they came down, this couple along with one of the women from the other group. And they came down and they literally climbed down into the pit and pulled us out one by one. And it was the most incredible thing I have experienced, truly. Like, it was this moment of like realizing how much good there is in humanity. You know, we see so much bad all the time. And it was a reminder, like, there are some really good people out there. So they literally pull us out. We get back on the trail and we find our way back to our car. And, you know, it took a while to get actually through the rest of the trail and find our way back. And we almost got lost 2 more times. So whatever, but it was okay. We got back and we made it back to Salt Lake City and we made our flight and all of that. It was a happy ending. But one of the lessons that is most profound that I took away from this is, like, it could be really easy for me to say, like, we were idiots for jumping down into that section. And like, that's why we got stuck. And yes, it's true. Like, we should have followed the trail and we shouldn't have jumped down, and like we got stuck because of that. If we hadn't been able to look for solutions and if we hadn't been able to ask for help, we would have been stuck there for a lot longer. And if we back up, yes, like, jumping down into that pit was poor planning. Like, we didn't have a clear path that was helping us make the right decisions. And instead of really trying to figure out where the path is going, this pit of possible return, which I later just called the pit of despair, it just felt like, how are we going to get out of here? If I had taken a little bit more time to strategize and figure out, are we going the right way, before jumping down into a pit 15 feet down below, we never would have gotten stuck to begin with. So there's like so many lessons there, and how it applies to business, right? We take these steps all the time without really strategizing, without really understanding what we're doing and why and how it's going to lead us from where we are right now to where we want to go. And there has to be a clear path. We don't always know, obviously, like, what each step is going to lead to. But if you don't have a clear understanding of what the path is, you're very likely going to stay stuck or get yourself even more stuck. But when you are stuck, and we're all going to get to these points where we're stuck, when we are stuck, we have to be able to look around ourselves and look for solutions and look for options and find people to help us, and understand when we can't do that thing ourselves without help. We just can't. It's impossible. We reach these points where we just say, like, I need help. And if I don't have help, it's not going to happen. I'm going to stay stuck. So those are kind of like the things that really, really stuck with me. Now, I want to focus for a minute on that couple who I called out to for help, who did not even attempt to help us. They just moved on. And I know that if you're listening to this podcast, you are not in the category of people who would not look to help. That's not who you are, right? You're running a purpose-driven business. You want to help people. The problem is that when you keep yourself hidden and you keep yourself quiet and you don't show up publicly for your audience and you don't let people know what you do and how you can help them, you're not giving them an opportunity to receive your help. You're not giving yourself the opportunity to help as many people as you could. It doesn't make you a bad person at all. You're a wonderful person. I know it just based on who you are listening to this podcast. I know it. But there's such a difference between those women up at the top who were desperately trying to help us, and they were responding to us, and they were calling out to us, and they let us know that they were there to help. And they told everyone that they saw that someone needed help. They let everyone know what they were trying to do. They were trying to help this couple that was stuck in a pit. There's such a difference between that and this couple down below who just didn't put themselves out there. They didn't try to help. They didn't advertise that they are there to help in whatever way that they can. And I hear all the time, like every single day I speak with people who are running businesses, they're doing purpose-driven work. They want to help more people. They truly do, but they just don't want to show up. They just don't want to show up. They don't want to post content. They don't want to share what they do, not because they don't want to do it, but because they don't understand how to do it in a way that feels true to themselves. And so they have this picture in their minds that like marketing yourself is automatically icky or gross or not, not something that people want to see. But if you don't do that, if you don't put yourself out there and let people know what you have to offer and how you can help them, you're essentially being that couple at the bottom who's not ready to help. Because if you don't let people know how you can help them, they're never going to be able to reach out to you for help. And instead, I want you to be those women at the top. We all want to be those women. We want to help as many people as we can. But the only reason those women were successful in actually helping us was that they shouted from the rooftops. They shouted to everyone that they saw that there is a couple that needs help. And so this other couple who was not even part of their group, they just happened to pass them, came down into the pit and pulled us out 100% because of those women. We all want to be those women in how we show up for people. But if we don't show up and loudly and proudly say how we can help people, they'll never know. They'll never know. And they are going to stay stuck in the ways that we are uniquely equipped to help get them unstuck. So I laugh a lot about that pit of possible return name. I think it's such a dramatic name. And I really did, like, once we were down in the pit, I was like, this is the pit of despair. We're going to die here, right? In my head. I didn't say it out loud. Svi was saying that out loud. But really, it was true. It was this pit of possible return. Return was possible, but it was only possible because we looked for help. I looked for help. We're gonna leave Svi out of that for now because he was just spiraling. I looked for help. I was able to keep my eyes open enough to look for help. I want to encourage you to do the same. If you are feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you don't know how to talk about what you do in a way that feels true to who you are, if you are feeling like you just don't know how to show up in a way that doesn't feel icky or doesn't feel inauthentic to who you are, or if you're showing up and it's just not connecting with your dream clients and you're struggling to help as many people as you can, that's your sign to look for help. Get help from someone who can actually help you. Call out to the people who can help you. I would love to be the person to help you if you're looking for a way to connect with your dream clients and to really allow your true self to come out into the world, because that is what's going to really connect with your dream clients. Thank you for being here. I will see you next week. And don't forget, return is possible, even when you're in the pit of what seems like despair.
All right, beautiful human, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. This episode was brought to you by my company, Honeybee Bold, with music by Shmukulele, production by Podium Studios, and sponsored by NitoCal. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, hit subscribe, and don't forget to rate and review us. It really helps us grow and means the world. See you next time.